I'm Janvi Sen, and you're watching our brand new show, Seema Says. The Wire's editor, Seema Chishti, will be breaking down important news stories and giving her analysis on what's going on around the world. From the next time onwards, you can also ask her to give her comments on what's going on by commenting on this video. Thanks, Seema, and
Thank you,
welcome to the
Janvi.
show.
Very intimidating. Yeah.
I want to start with something a little far from home, which is the New York City mayoral race. Today is polling day, November 4th, in New York, and it seems perhaps likely that New York is going to see an Indian origin mayor. But we haven't seen a lot of national noise around this. Perhaps some on social media from certain actors, but definitely nothing from the state, nothing more widespread, nothing in Gujarat, even though he's Gujarati origin.
So I think this says a lot. While you say it's very far from home, but I think the response to Zohran Mamdani's candidature says so much about India and the world today. Here is somebody who deeply disturbs the Donald Trump administration, clearly because his politics is completely contrary to the Republican Party that Donald Trump heads and represents, and of course the Indian establishment too. But there are like two parts to this. I think very fundamentally the fact that he's an Indian Muslim. We've not seen the Indian traditional NRI establishment that is there in the US, very active there in the US, that promotes, say, even Hassan Minhaj or Mehdi Hassan, or talks about their Indianness and boasts of them as eminent kind of personalities, because something about them being Indian Muslim origin disturbs them deeply. Then he is a Gujarati Muslim. He makes no bones about his politics. The kind of politics that he brings is a pan-Indian, diverse embrace of pluralism globally too. He brings almost a global South politics together, which is not something this administration talks about. The MEA is known to just talk about events where it sees Hindus as getting affected globally. And Zohran stands in complete kind of contravention, as a complete contrast to that. In fact, the Hindu American Foundation has spent its own money to put out ads going against Zohran Mandani. So watching him emerge as a symbol of a South Asian person, a Gujarati origin, Muslim origin, Indian person should have been a cause for much more celebration, like Satya Nadella is celebrated, or Sundar Pichai, who have very little to do with Indian interests, but they're celebrated, not him. When Mr. Modi goes out, there's so much to be made with NRIs, but I doubt if he'd want Zoran to be part of that. So I think that way, Zoran poses a big challenge in the biggest city there is in the world, the Big Apple, I mean, New York, and making it with his kind of politics, his opposition to corporates, to Trumpian politics, and to Modi's vision of India, I think is what makes him very uncomfortable for a significant section of Hindutva-based persons of Indian origin or Indians too.
I mean, you did mention it briefly, but what is it specifically about his politics that makes so many people uncomfortable?
I think the fact, which was something that was like derided as sewer socialism, as he said, but the fact that he takes on big money, he talks about inequality, he talks about common people and making them deliver things. That is something which even significant sections of the Democrats are uncomfortable with. So no doubt this ability to kind of want to deliver to common people, to set that up as a benchmark. So governments in India, like even governments in Bihar that have been in power for 20 years, would be challenged to accept that you can do that. You can send people out on free buses. There should be rent control and other things that just look at it from the point of view of an ordinary city dweller. And the fact that he's got people knocking on doors, 90,000 volunteers, all of that suggests that this politics is alive. So a lot of people also on the liberal side or the left side of the equation who kind of do a give up politics. He stands in opposition and in contrast to their kind of, you can do nothing, it's doomsday. So I think he makes a lot of people uncomfortable by pushing it out. And should he become mayor, I think we're entering a whole new chapter of politics, I think, which will leave its imprint globally.
Now, polling day is today, so we'll know soon whether that is to happen. And you already mentioned Bihar. This is another election that
Sorry, I want to mention one more thing about Zohran, because while this government has been very eager to embrace Taliban, they may not mind a Taliban version of Islam coming out. But Zohran's very modern, very particularly, it's not as if he's going about talking about the Quran. So he embraces his identity in a way which is not about being Islamic. He's got Muslim heritage. He says he's a practicing Muslim and he embraces that. That is different in the way we had this Taliban leader who was feted and allowed to hold press conferences without any women in the first instance. So I think because of that, he makes the BJP kind of, and the ruling regime here, particularly uncomfortable.
Yeah. If we
Bihar,
then move on to Bihar. We're just now 2 days away from the first phase of polling. So we've kind of seen how this campaign has played out. I wanted to ask you about that. What has been the tone of the campaign? What does that say? are the issues the political parties that they're raising, is it what the people are also thinking about and what they are going to vote on?
So, a quick summary of the political issues
Mm.
as per their kind of Ghoshna Patras or their manifestos. The NDA seems to be suddenly talking about 4 metros, trains, expressways,
Yeah.
and some money that they will give to EBCs. They will give up to 20,000 to SCs, which seems very odd. Here's a government that has been in power for 2 decades now, almost continuously. Mr. Modi is in his 12th year as Prime Minister. He could have helped another state there. There have been so many announcements, mega numbers thrown out. Why has Bihar continued to languish? This sort of, full of migration that has kind of gone up. There was large scale internal migration back into Bihar that is again out. And as the opposition says, there is nothing on offer by way of industry, semiconductor units, AI. I think in the manifesto, when they figured that they were kind of losing the narrative on actually talking about what they've done for 20 years, the NDA went out and made some noises. But I think it worries the NDA because it is such an example of how backward things can be and pulled down despite 20 years or maybe in spite. 20 years of being in power. And it comes as a contrast to say what's happening in Kerala, which not only because of this government, but successive governments, but particularly because of a plan, a focused plan to eradicate extreme poverty put in place in 21. And the fact that there's never been a BJP government there, and here you've just had a BJP government for 20 years, surely that contrast is for there to see. So, and I think that has kind of shown through the campaign that there's every effort made to distract from real issues.
Mm.
As far as the opposition goes, no doubt it started on a slightly chaotic kind of note. And it must also ask itself about why it's in opposition and why it was the one North Indian state where the opposition did not perform well and it was not able to break the BJP kind of wall other than Madhya Pradesh in Bihar. But Tejasvi has offered a job, a government job, and said within 20 days he can be held to his kind of promise. So I think that has injected some realism. The opposition keeps trying to make it about living conditions, how people feel, and about empowerment. You've had a kind of an EBC, a manifesto focused on the EBC. So it's not just about a Yadav kind of a rule returning. But I think the NDA is forced to constantly talk about Jungle Raj, which is the name they give to the government run by Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav before 2005, because there's nothing to talk about in these 20 years. So we're witnessing a very tight contest, a very, very difficult election. There's a resource skew, and there is a media kind of, everybody seems to be speaking in some versions of Maithili or Bhojpuri and turning up and doing all kinds of things. But I don't think even television channels, Godi media, is going out and saying who they think is winning.
Yeah. Well, we'll know in 10 days. Big election period that we're seeing. I want to move us to something that has been happening in the national capital for the last 2 weeks, maybe a bit more, and the areas around it. We've kind of been floating through this smoky haze as everyone goes about their daily lives. It's impossible to ignore. You can see it, you can feel it. Everyone is now also talking about it to different degrees and in different ways. But is this a political issue, and should it be?
Because what way is there to end it? If we're going to take it as like a vipada or what God has given us, then nothing ends. When you have governments in power, which are there over long periods, it just means that a citizen in this indirect democracy that we kind of follow, we are outsourcing this to the government. We're electing them to fix this. And there's complete abdication of just basic things like clean air and water. So much so that they don't even talk about it. This whole fancy for double engine sarkar and now a triple engine government in Delhi. So we found that the whole double engine myth has broken down as far as law and order go comprehensively in Manipur. But now what we're seeing is in terms of governance, in terms of their ability to politically handle this is going away. What does this involve? This involves cleaning up cities in terms of garbage disposal. It involves talking to neighboring states if there is any stubble burning or any farm fires. That means fixing of policy. There's the same government even in Haryana, the same government even in UP, which are surrounding states. It involves managing vehicular pollution, the road ministry. So who are they at odds with? But I think there's this whole idea to make it all about spectacles, to do these unscientific cloud seeding, to do things and to promise stuff which is like very big, which looks big ticket. There are planes going out. You're throwing silver iodine. You're throwing sodium chloride. when you've not done the science properly in terms of figuring out if there's enough moisture, whether this kind of cloud seeding or weather modification campaign is actually going to help bring down pollution and go in a particular way. So I think it's deeply political, and the people of Delhi and North India, not just Delhi, but Delhi being the capital, such a pampered national capital of this country, but others need to kind of just put pressure on those who govern that thou shalt not be allowed to stay in office if you don't fix the air we breathe. It's kind of gone beyond a joke. We can all taste the air. People are falling sick. Doctors are saying leave the capital, go elsewhere, wear a mask. It's astounding how it's allowed to continue. And what's really bizarre is that despite this, there is a sense of all is well, because you are having marathons, kids are pulled out to cycle up. What's going on here? Instead of shutting down the cities, Kuala Lumpur, other Southeast Asian cities shut down when it crosses 100, but you don't do that. Secondly, why this is political and about democracy is about data. We need to know clearly, the government of India, all the data we have about deaths and about ill effects on human health come from WHO, come from Lancet, come from other studies. The Indian government has never thought it fit to do it. We've been sitting with this crisis for at least 15 years. So what was very romanticized in Hindi film songs, the Dilli ki Sardi or the winters of Delhi, have now degenerated into a smog that can kill you. So you have a gas chamber in the national capital, and it is hidden because you've capped the AQI at 500, which it is not to say that why do you need to know if it's so bad? You don't need to know, because if it is 1,400 or it's 2,000, there's a difference. When you compute averages and you calculate the impact on health and on inhalation, that matters. Then on deep days dark days rather, like Diwali, where crackers were allowed, so-called green crackers, but we saw just very toxic crackers go out, and pollution since then hasn't recovered. You had stations which are non-functional, only 9 out of 32 stations functioning. So, what happened to smart cities? So far from smart cities, we have unlivable cities, and Delhi is supposed to be the mascot. It should kind of showcase how good you are, as you have a triple engine sarkar. But I think it is failing miserably on those fronts. And if it is not turned into an issue that is political, where we hold our elected representatives to turn, at least not making things unbearable and killing us off, killing voters off and citizens off, we'd be failing our future generations, our children, the elderly, and all residents here.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think maybe the last topic we can talk about is something slightly more celebratory, and that's, I know you follow cricket. Sunday was a day when I'm sure all of us were glued to our screens. The Indian team won the Women's Cricket World Cup. Did you follow the match? Did you follow the series? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it was so brilliant. And I think that just really kind of it's as they say, what 1983 did to Indian cricket with Kapil Dev's 11 winning the World Cup and defeating the invincible West Indies on a low score. This is what the semi-final, where we knocked out Australia, and then our girls winning the cup. It was like an astounding 2 days. And it has just done so much to kind of a team which is a kind of off online. It's trolled. It is often kind of the kind of remarks you wouldn't make about male cricketers that are made about the women cricketers, or their embrace as betis and as mothers and sisters, both kind of either patronage or of extreme misogyny. They fought through all that and they won this with sheer grit. While a lot is made about the WPL having come in and there being equal pay, we must remember that wages are still not equal for women cricketers, as in the contracts that the BCCI signs with them. There's a huge disparity at all levels, grade A, grade B, and grade C cricketers. There's a huge disparity that needs to be fixed. For people, sport is a great way of expressing ourselves as a nation. It makes us all feel good. So sports teams can do wonders in our sense of identity. The fact that you have people coming from all parts of the country, from all religions. You have Jesus being thanked, you have Vaheguru, you have the Hanuman Chalisa being thanked. I think that is such a great kind of poster case for an India that can be, but one that is like periodically throttled. So I think it's all about, I hope this can mean that women can walk freely in the streets, that they are admired more, they're appreciated more. We have a massive gender gap. The most recent WEF thing records India as being ranked amongst the worst countries in terms of the gender gap. So I just hope all this fixes ideas about what it is to be a young woman and improves lives of young women and puts them on the same pedestal as we put male cricketers. So if it works as something that can just start up that idea of an equal India, which all genders share, I think our women cricketers would have really gone a long way. But kudos to them.
Absolutely. that's all the news discussion we have for today. But I mean, I think one thing anyone who interacts with you regularly would know is that you have somehow hacked the system where there are only 24 hours in the day and found some extra hours somewhere. Because not only do you follow all the news, you've often read, watched things that are really exciting. So I want you to give our viewers some recommendations that you think all of us might also enjoy.
So, in the recommendation, I think I was really struck by this Guardian piece I read yesterday, which in detail lists out about how Elon Musk is now taking on Wikipedia. And there's an attack on Wikipedia, which I think is the most democratic sort of space, and it kind of let the encyclopedia live on despite many errors. It was a great experiment at knowledge, at collation, collection, and archiving, which the net is otherwise bad at. But apparently, Elon Musk has launched a Grokopedia. So, it would be worth reading the Guardian piece on that. I think we can put that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
I think that's like a good piece, which is good. And in terms of films, House of Dynamite, no doubt. I mean, the new film by Catherine Bigelow, which kind of the fact that, yeah, I saw it before Mr. Trump said that he's going to renew nuclear tests now because according to him, all countries are doing it, and USA is number one. Bizarre reason. But I think just the horrors of a nuclear war, how close you can get to things. So I think the Pentagon watchers and some serious Pentagon nicks have put out a podcast where they've spoken of various flaws in how the film is. But I think it brings you very close to the edge of what it is and how seriously we should take a nuclear war. We live in a part of the world where, the whole nuclear question is discussed so casually with the two nuclear neighbors that India and Pakistan are. Of course, it's another matter that China and Russia also have nuclear weapons. So it's such a dense nuclear region. But the way a nuclear war is just tossed about, even by the ruling elite in both India and Pakistan, is a cause of great concern. So I think we need to really think seriously about it. And the House of Dynamite, I think it's available on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. Just kind of alerts you to how close you can be to somebody just kind of shooting a nuclear missile, and what that can mean for the world.
Okay, thanks. That's all we have for this episode. But like I said, if you have questions you want to ask Seema, things you want her to talk about, please do comment on this video and maybe she'll take them up next time. Thank you, and thank you, Seema.
Thank you, Janvi.